Hey guys, being a tech YouTube channel, we are constantly exposed to the latest and greatest equipment. At the same time, it can be overwhelming when looking for equipment that is suitable for us and more importantly our workflow. Ever since we started this channel, we've been recording on our Fujifilm cameras and the quality is great. Overall, we've been pretty happy. But as time went on, our needs have changed and the current camera setup started to show its age. So we decided to check out potential upgrades. In this video, we'll take a closer look at a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K and see if it can be a good option moving forward. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. If we were to really simplify our workflow, it consists of two main elements: A-roll clips, which is the shot you see right here, and B-roll clips, where we are showcasing the product itself. This brings us to the first problem. Our Fuji X-H1 camera can only record at 4K at 24 FPS in 8-bit color. This is pretty much standard for camera that can record both video and take photos, but it is also limiting, especially when it comes to post-processing work and more specifically color correction. The footage quality falls apart when we push it a bit more than usual, and it does not record enough data to really do any advanced color corrections. The second and probably the bigger issue we have is high frame rate recording, which is limited to 120 FPS at 1080p. We have been publishing our videos exclusively in 4K for almost a year now, and therefore any slow motion footage has to be upscaled from 1080p. This seriously exaggerates any imperfections and is something that we really need fixing. We did a bit of research on the latest iteration of the Fuji camera, and it now has 10-bit recording, nice, as well as up to 240 FPS slow motion recording, which is pretty cool, but alas it is still limited to 1080p only. This led us to realization that we need to check out other brands, so we set our eyes on Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. On paper it has much higher video quality, going all the way up to, well, 6K at 50 FPS in 12-bit RAW. It can also do 2.8K at 120 FPS, while still recording in RAW. Let's quickly talk about the camera and the things we really like. By the way, this is not a full scientific camera review, this is a more selective review of our personal workflow and how it fits in. First of all, we love the ability to shoot in 6K. It lets us shoot wider than needed and reframe if necessary. This is especially useful when we're recording somewhere unfamiliar and also allows us for flexibility to create movement in post-processing, such as zoom in and create nice digital pans. The second point is recording in Blackmagic RAW. This is a game changer. It lets us adjust things like ISO, white balance and other settings in post without negatively impacting the footage. Also, the 12-bit recording enables unreal flexibility when it comes down to post-processing. The synergy between this camera and DaVinci Resolve is just amazing. When recording standard talking head in RAW and importing into DaVinci Resolve, 9 times out of 10 it takes just pressing the auto button and the color correction is done. It is truly astonishing. A really impressive thing when we're comparing to our existing cameras is dynamic range, together with dual ISO. It takes low light recording to yet another level. While it is not something that we normally use as we have a very controlled lighting environment, it is still a great tool to have in your arsenal. We really like the button layout as they have thought of most things you would need, including a few buttons that could be customized. The grip itself is very comfortable. On the left hand side behind the flaps you get a full range of different connections, both microphone and headphone ports, a very welcome full-size HDMI connection, power, USB Type-C port and mini XLR. This camera supports recording directly into an external SSD through that USB Type-C port, and to be honest, that is the proper way to record, because when recording at 6K in RAW, the file sizes are huge, even when having them heavily compressed. When it comes to usability, it is clearly designed by a team that understands filmmaking. The settings are in the right order and easy to understand. Going through the menu once was enough to memorize where things are. I like that it allows me to save presets that affect every setting in the camera. We've used two different ones: 6K at 24 FPS for an A-roll shot and 2.8K at 120 FPS for the B-roll. Being a touchscreen display, it is especially easy to navigate and change things on the fly. One big downside of this screen is lack of tilting adjustment. It is fixed and that could definitely be frustrating. This works as a great segue to the limitations of this camera. First one is battery life, and this is a big deal. When recording a longer A-roll, the battery dies before we manage to finish. There are 3 solutions to this problem. First one, if recording is done indoors, we can simply leave it plugged in into the wall power. The second, if we're out and about, we can keep a few extra batteries in our pocket, or better still, mount a battery grip. Bear in mind, it does make the camera heavier and a little bit bigger. The last and most cumbersome option is to rig it up and install something like a V-mount battery. Then you can easily record for hours, but it is no longer a run and gun setup. Next is video file size. We've already mentioned recording to SSD. It is because we've tried to record 6K at 24 FPS RAW with 8:1 compression to a 128GB SD card, and it could only last 22 minutes. To be fair, this is something expected as we're getting a whole lot of data, but at this rate we would need to call Linus for a petabyte NAS upgrade ASAP. Alternative is to compress it further or maybe even turn down the resolution, but then what's the point of getting a high quality camera anyway? The other limitation is lack of stabilization and autofocusing. This camera has no inbuilt stabilization but can utilize lens image stabilization, unfortunately only a few selected lenses. As to focusing, it is limited to a single focus rather than continuous. Both is a serious limitation when we're shooting B-roll. To help with the shakiness, we tend to use our monopod, even though it limits our angles that we can do. To help with the focusing, well, practicing on manual pulling focus is one way, and another is to buy a follow focus system and have a second person take care of that. Another thing about this camera that has caused us issues is crop factor when using modes other than 6K. For example, when recording at 2.8K in slow motion, we have a 3.3 times crop, so the shot is way more zoomed in than in 6K. This can be an issue in situations where we need to record something in slow motion and use a wide field of view. Lastly, and probably one of the main ones for many people, is the size. While the camera straight out of the box is actually reasonably light and small, it does really benefit from rigging it out to deal with the aforementioned issues such as storage, battery life, as well as focusing. You can also throw in a monopod and you're looking at a considerable rig to lug around. In all of this, I've definitely highlighted a lot of limitations when it comes to this camera. But does it mean it's a bad camera? Actually, not at all. This is an amazing camera, especially when you look at its price. The problem here is our workflow and our requirements are not what this camera is built for. It delivers incredible footage, and once rigged up, you can do some serious cinema work. At the moment, our production team is too small for the camera like this, but we'll definitely keep an eye out for it in the future. I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys in the next one.